Welcome to the Radiant Visalia podcast. Join us at one of our two services, 9 a.m. and 10:45 a.m. Download the Church Center app or visit our website, radiantvisalia.com, to stay connected with us. All right, enjoy.
There is a heavenly city that I'm compelled to find.
Hey, if you brought your Bible, would you open it to Matthew chapter 20? If you didn't bring your Bible and you're on your phone, we're just going to assume you're building a wiffle ball team. I want to start this morning's teaching with some good news, bad news. We'll start with the good news first. Good news is I did graduate from seminary last week. Yeah. As evidenced by the sweet shirt that the Cavallis got me. I did want to say too, like not jokingly, I just wanted to say thanks for investing in me. And I'm hoping that this serves our church body. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to do it. And then if you don't know this, the church actually funded the project as well. So it was an amazing thing. So that's the good news. Bad news is I missed last Sunday, which wasn't a big deal. I was fine with it until I watched the video. And I watched the video of Glenn's preach and the baptisms and was thinking of all the Sundays to miss, last Sunday was not a good one. Parents baptizing their kids. I mean, then it was husbands baptizing their wives. Oh, man. Yeah, fathers baptizing their sons. What about the young man? He got baptized, then he reversed it and turned and baptized his own aunt. I mean, in-laws in the tank together? In-laws. Let me say it again. In-laws in the tank together. Virgil, Sonny, and his son Chris. And I mean, it was insane. When Haley was like, I've known God my whole life, but only through fear and shame. I was just like, what? And then Roger Mueller, he didn't baptize his son. Danny baptized his son, but he like walked over and he grabbed the mic and he's like, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased. Yeah, I mean, this is a wrong Sunday to miss. I didn't even watch it. Like, it took a couple days for me to watch it. And then when I watch it, you can ask my girls. I was like screaming and crying at the television. They were like, did the Warriors lose? And I was like, no, people are being baptized right now. So I just wanted to say thanks for all of those of you who said yes. And we're praying for you because we know that you don't put on the jersey of Team Jesus without some opposition. So we're trusting God to continue the work he's begun in you. Then Glenn preached, and it was awesome. And he touched the first sentence of our mission statement. He talked about beholding Jesus. It's what we've done for the last 20. It's what we're going to do for the next 20. And when we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we'll continue to behold Jesus and just adore him for who he is. And so he hit the first part of our mission statement, that we are Radiant Church, not because of something we've done, but because we see him and reflect him. We want to put his brilliance on display. The mission statement that we have as a church was actually put together by Mike Young and Eric Riley and myself. We were wrestling and we came up with, we want to behold Jesus. We want to put his brilliance on display by living lives that are obedient to the word of God, surrendered to the Spirit of God, and devoted to the mission of God. And the mission statement stayed that way for quite some time until we got a visit from Brian Mowry, who leads our family of churches. And he looked at the mission statement and he was kind of like, how would you know you've succeeded? Like, what part of this actually can be measured? And he was kind of like, let's say you do it. Let's say you see Jesus. Let's say you put his brilliance on display. Let's say you're obedient to the word and you're all full of the Spirit and you're super devoted to the mission. What? What happens? Then what? And he was like, I'd encourage you guys to include that in your mission statement so that you can look at it and go, are we doing it? Are we doing it? So really quickly, we rattled off, man, if we are obedient to the word, surrendered to the Spirit, devoted to mission, the lost are going to be found. And prodigals, those who were a part of the church and stepped away, took a walk, they're going to come running home. And disciples are going to be made. And we don't just want to multiply disciples, we want to multiply churches, because it's the best way to save the lost and see prodigals come home is to plant churches. So really quickly, we were like, hey, we should, if we're seeing Jesus, if we're seeing him rightly and being changed by him, we should also see the lost found. We should also be seeing prodigals return to the church. We should also see discipleship, not just the making of disciples, but the maturing of disciples. That should be taking place. And we should be sowing and planting and sending because our God was himself a sent one. So that's kind of how that came about. And I want to focus today on the second half, the so that part of our mission statement. So that the lost are found, prodigals come home, disciples are made, and churches are planting. Due to our 20th anniversary, I've been doing a lot of reflecting on where we've been. If you picked up the magazine, there's lots of old photos and old stories about what it was like to walk into Radiant for the first time. There's lots of stories about the many buildings that we've met in, and not many of them were as nice as the one we're now in. But I've been reflecting, but I've also been projecting into the future. What are we going to do for the next 20 years? What does the next decade look like? Where are we headed? Is there anything we would change? Is this still the play, God? Is this still what you're asking us to do? And what's been really interesting, it might be my age, might be just this moment right now, but I've actually been thinking not what are we going to do for the next 20 years, but I've been thinking a lot about what will it take for Radiant to celebrate a 100-year anniversary, for this work to outlast us, for it to continue for generations, and not just have the typical life cycle of a church, but to outlast, the typical 40-year run of a church. So, as I was thinking about it and thinking about all the many things we could do, I found myself watching that baptism video and going, yes, please. Can we do more of that? This never gets old. This never gets old to see Jesus transform lives, transform families, add people to the church. It never gets old to see people saved and added. And I just found myself thinking, let's do this. Let's do it every week, and let's do it every week for the rest of my life. I'll be happy to be a part of that. I don't know if you guys have experienced this personally, but I know it's true and can be true of organizations. It can be true corporately. We can experience something of a mission creep, where why you started and what you set out to do is not in the end what you end up doing. Does that make any sense? A little bit adrift, a departure from kind of the mission that you set out with. And I know that without us noticing, our mission can creep, our focus can creep, our allegiance can creep. We don't tend to float upstream, do we? We tend to float downstream and find ourselves in a different place. And slowly but surely, instead of the mission becoming to reach the world around us and to make disciples, slowly but surely our real mission becomes staying comfortable, checking out. This is the mission that we can sometimes adopt. Having real close friends and those friendships remaining interrupted. settling for the status quo. Again, we would never say this or put it on a banner, beholding Jesus, putting his brilliance on display by pursuing, keeping up with the Joneses and, all the status quo, Taking holidays can quickly become our mission. Simply attending church in the way that we attend our kids' sporting events. This can quickly become our goal and our values. And I don't think, by the way, any of these things are necessarily wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with a holiday. I don't think there's anything wrong with sporting events. I don't think there's anything wrong with having close friendships. But they're not ultimate. And when we make those things the ultimate, we miss out on what God's doing in our lives. I attended with Joseph Rosales like a church planting training. And the speaker he was up there and he was trying to stir everybody up to plant a church. He didn't know I was there as someone who's been leading a church for 20 years. But man, he shared something with me that's just been haunting me, and I'm hoping it gets lodged in you and then begins to haunt you. But he talked about the origins of yacht clubs. And he said, do you know how yacht clubs got started? I was like, this guy must be from the East Coast. No one cares, And he was like, well, they were rescue societies. What happened and how yacht clubs started is that people who were saved at sea, they themselves were rescued. They were motivated when storms hit the coast to go out and risk their lives to rescue others. They started actually building shelters so that when the people were rescued, they could come in and get warm. There were showers, there were meals available to those who were rescued. And they actually started to build lighthouses as well to keep people from crashing. In time, they started to think, we can be together in this shelter, enjoy each other's company, and enjoy the meals without going out to rescue those who were at sea. So we'll just be together and enjoy all that means and brings. And we'll stop being a rescue society. We'll become a yacht club. I think you can probably see where I'm going with this. But man, as he shared it, I felt so convicted. It feels so tempting in age and in this stage to think, oh, we've done that. So tempting to settle. So tempting to move towards our comforts. So tempting to avoid unnecessary risk. And I just want to say very candidly, we are not becoming a yacht club. I know that temptation lies in all of us in some way, shape, or form. But we will continue to be, for the next 20 years, a rescue society. We will continue to risk, not for the sake of risk, but because risk is right. And we will continue as a group of people to remember that we've been rescued, because that's what slowly started to happen for those people. They forgot what it was like to be out there, tossed back and forth, wondering if you were going to make it. They tasted some security, forgot what it's like to be harassed. So I don't want to see our mission creep, and I know you don't either. I've been thinking a lot about not how to start things. I feel fairly good at starting things. I've been thinking a lot about how do we sustain those things. How do we sustain a life of sacrifice? Not how do we go out once, but how do we keep going out over and over again and risking our lives, giving our time, giving our money, giving our effort to see others rescued? How do we sustain that? Yes. Not just for a year, but decades. How do we continue to say yes to making sacrifices for the mission that God's put in front of us? That's of interest to me. Again, could be a middle-aged thing, but it's like, I know how people get into ministry. I'm like, how do you finish well? Because 13 of the 49 leaders featured in the Bible finish well. The majority do not. So you're like, I'm glad you said yes to God, but how do you keep saying yes? How do you sustain that yes? I know how you get married. How do you stay married? I know how you get pregnant. How do you be a father who initiates your son? These are the bigger, better questions. How do we sustain this yes? How do we sustain this level of sacrifice for decades? Because my experience has been, it starts with like a yes, and then it turns into a yeah. And then it's like here we go again. And then it's like, man, can we not? And then all of a sudden it's like, no, I served on kids. I've served on kids for decades. Right? How do we keep being the people who are like, yes, I'll serve? I think Matthew 20 has a few questions I want to put before you. Let's read this together, because how you answer these questions, I think, will determine if you serve. It'll determine how you serve. And these will certainly determine how long you'll serve. Before you go, it's a yacht club for me, Trav. The first question is this: what do you deserve? What do you deserve? Jesus would say in Matthew 20, for the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. He agreed to pay them a denarius for the day and sent them into his vineyard. About 9 a.m, he went out and saw others standing in the marketplace doing nothing. And he told them, you also go out and work in my vineyard, and I'll pay you whatever is right. So they went too. And he went out again about noon, and about 3 p.m, and he did the same thing. About 5 p.m, he went out and found still others standing around, and he asked them, why have you been standing here all day long doing nothing? And they said, because no one has hired us. They answered, and he said to them, you also go and work in my vineyard. And when evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, call the workers, pay them their wages, beginning with the last ones hired and going on to the first. The workers who were hired about 5 p.m. came, each one received a denarius. So when those who came, who were hired first, they expected to receive more. But each one of them also received a denarius. When they received it, they began to grumble against the landowner. These who were hired last worked only 1 hour. And you've made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the work and the heat of the day. But he answered one of them, am I not being unfair to you, friend? Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? Take your pay and go. I want to give the one who was hired last the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because I'm generous? So the last will be first, and the first will be last. If you were here on Easter, this is Jesus once again trying to dismantle the ladder that lives inside of us. Jesus is trying to help us, those of us who think in terms of fair, understand how to view the world through grace. We live life through the lenses of fair, and Jesus is like, here, try these grace goggles on. Grace being God's unmerited favor, which really takes some time to grasp. Maybe a lifetime to grasp. Fair is not something I've ever had to teach my kids. I never sat down and gave them a lesson on fair. Never had to teach it to them. In fact, they throw it in my face. Having never said I want to be this, they're like, you're not being fair. And I'm like, that's fine. I never said I wanted to be fair. And so I'm not actually breaking the rules here. It's never been it's never been my word for the year in the new year. This year I'm just hoping to be fair, you know? We're born with a deep sense of justice because we're born in the image of God. We're born with a deep sense of right and wrong because we're born in the image of God. And we want fairness. It's in us, or so we say. When we've been sinned against or wronged, we want what is fair. When we've sinned and we've done wrong, we want patience, forgiveness, empathy, and for others to understand where we're coming from, overlook our offense, and know that that's not our heart. So we want fair sometimes, and then other times we want grace. And here's what you need to know. In order to sustain your yes, you need to know that your desire for fair starts to increase when we begin to work and serve. When you begin to make sacrifices, your deep desire for fair starts to go bonkers because our efforts should equal something. I do this, then you do this. It's there from birth, but it begins to grow when we perform and work and serve. I served, and therefore I deserve. Entitlement begins to crop up in all of us. I did this, and I should get that. They did this, and they should get that. So the vineyard in this passage is Israel. And the workers who got there early, those are God's people. Like Brent, what time did you get here today? 6. 5:30. Those who got here at 5:30, those are God's people, right? How many of you were here, you're 15 minutes late? You're in the back row, not because you're in the back row, you're 15 minutes late. So Israel's been serving God since the start of the day. And those who are getting in late and getting paid the same wages, those are the Gentiles and the tax collectors, the sinners. Matthew himself, the author of this book, would be one of those who started his day late. So those who started their workday at 5, those are the people getting grafted in, and they're getting all the same benefits of salvation. And they started the day at 5 o'clock. They haven't worked nearly as long, and they're enjoying all the benefits that the workers who got there early are enjoying. And those workers who started the day early are upset, offended. They deserved more. And I believe that the Lord would ask us right now at our 20th, and if you would, just close your eyes with me. I believe the Lord would ask us, those who are trying to sustain our yes with family and at work and at church, I believe the Lord would ask, have I been unfair? Have I been unfair to you? Didn't you agree to work for a denarius? I believe God would say to you, haven't I fulfilled my word to you? Haven't I been faithful to my promise over your life? I believe the Lord would say to you, don't I have a right to do what I want with my own money? I think God would say to us this morning, are you sure you're going to tell me what to do? You sure you want to do that? And I believe he would ask us, are you envious because I'm generous? Do you begrudge my generosity? Our desire, folks, to have is not a bad thing, but our desire to have can quickly become a desire for others not to have, because there's only so much to go around. What happens for you when other people receive all the same payoffs without putting in the same work? We need everyone who shows up to pull off this vineyard. Those who show up at 6, 8, 9, and 11. And you need to answer the question, what do I deserve? Because you never deserve more than to serve God and serve others. You never deserve more than to serve God and serve others. And entitlement creeps in so quick. I don't deserve my kids can be said 2 ways. When they're asleep and I'm gazing upon their faces lit by the moon, I look to God and I'm like, I don't deserve these kids, you know? And then the very next morning, like 8 hours later, when someone dumps the milk, you're like, what, God, have I done to deserve this? Like, why have you done this to me, you know? Because I'm entitled to sleep. I'm entitled to something more than serving them. The same's true with our wives, our spouses, right? It's like, God, you know, I don't deserve this. And then it's like, God, I do not deserve this. This, what you've given me. You never outgrow. We're never going to, hey, we're 20 years in. Guess what? We're just going to serve for another 20. I was hoping I'd have a better answer. I don't have any hope. I don't. And that's because Jesus said, if you wanted to follow me, you should take up your cross. You should come and grow. No, die. And that's been a really hard part of being a pastor. I feel like I just crouched down and now I'm really talking without a filter. But churches are like, hey, let's teach everybody to live a better life. And Jesus is like, I'm going to teach them to die a better death. And it's really tough. It's just what we're going to do. And we're going to keep investing our lives. And we're going to keep sowing. And we're going to keep sowing. And we're going to watch out for entitlement. Because it's so sneaky. As Christians, we gave up on fair. That's why we're here. We all agreed. We all met in the foyer. And we're like, bring it up. Let's give up on fair. We don't want what we deserve. You do not want what you deserve. That's what you've agreed to as a Christian. The second thing is, how do you see God? Your view of God is going to be really important for the next couple decades. Now, Jesus was going up to Jerusalem. On the way, he took the 12 aside and he said to them, we're going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be delivered over to the chief priests and the teachers of the law. They will condemn him to death and will hand him over to the Gentiles to be mocked, flogged, and crucified. And on the third day, he will be raised to life. My question for you is, are you primarily serving him, or are you in touch with the very real ways that he's serving you? Because if you get out of touch with the ways that Jesus has served you, you won't serve, or you won't serve long. You've got to stay in touch with that. Are you doing stuff for God? Or is God doing stuff for you? And what do you find yourself focused on? Because if you're focused on, here I am, God, giving it everything I got while you're playing hard to get, I'm answering calls down here, you're never in the office. If that's the way your thinking is going, you won't serve very long and you won't sustain your yes. But if you stay in touch with the very real ways he's served and sacrificed for you, that you once were lost at sea and you were rescued, this is the fuel for those missions. So the person who has a sustained yes is repeating this: Jesus suffered. Jesus carries. Jesus bore the weight. Jesus paid it all. Jesus is planning. Jesus is dying. Jesus is gifting. Jesus is suffering. Jesus is giving. Jesus is leading. Jesus is serving. Jesus is working. When Jesus and I pick up the couch together, he has the heavier end. And then he goes, thanks for helping me move that, buddy. That is the thinking of somebody who goes for another couple missions. Lastly, worship team, would you guys come? How do you define greatness? This will mess with your sustained yes. How would you define God? How would you describe God? Yes, but how would you define greatness? What's your definition of greatness? Jesus goes on, then the mother of Zebedee's sons came to Jesus with her sons, and kneeling down asked for a favor of him. What is it you want? He asked, and she said, grant that one of these two sons of mine may sit at your right and the other at your left in your kingdom. You don't know what you're asking, Jesus said to them. Can you drink the cup I'm going to drink? We can, they answered. And Jesus said to them, sweet, you will. You will indeed drink from the cup. But to sit at my right or my left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared by my Father. When the 10 heard about this, they were indignant with the brothers. And Jesus called them together, and he said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Yeah, well, not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. What do you think it means to be great? What's that position on the field? How would you define it? I love this because Jesus says, oh, don't pursue greatness, you idiots. Don't pursue greatness, be humble. No, he says, oh, you want to be great? Great. Let me redefine greatness for you. It's lastness. It's lastness. It's lowliness. It's slavery. It's momness. It's momness. It's greatness in his eyes. And slowly, over time, we start to buy into a different definition of greatness. This is what it would mean to be great. And this is how I would define it or describe it. You know how those other guys, they lord it over you? They're in positions of power and they speak orders and people do them. Well, you're in the Lord's army now. And my army doesn't work that way. No matter how great you become in my kingdom, it'll never mean anything more than serving God and serving others. If you are given a position, folks, it is so that you can serve. It's not so that you can be served. I love in Christian circles, everyone's like, well, we practice servant leadership, as if there's any other option in the Bible. It's like, well, it's servant leadership here at our church. And it's like, yeah, it's servant leadership in every church. I don't know why there's another option. Jesus made it really clear. What do you think it means to be great? And where'd you get that idea? Exploring these three things, I think, will keep us in the game. Would you stand with me? We're going to come to the table. We're going to remember the sacrifice that Christ made. That we were lost. We were blind. Now we see. We're going to come to the table remembering what he has done and who he is and what he's carried. And I also just want to say there's such a big difference. Chris brought this up to me. There's such a big difference between a draft and people enrolling in the army. Of saying, I choose this, not somebody else chose this for me. Please hear me. I won't get to teach again until after our 20th anniversary. We're not doing a yacht club. I know that the ceiling looks like the belly of a boat. This will remain a rescue society, and we'll fight entitlement by remembering, not that we should do more and do better, but that Jesus suffered outside the gates. He came out and found us. He left what was safe, secure, and perfect in order to reach and to bleed and to suffer for us. So as you come to the table, let's just exalt him, but then let's offer our lives. If you're here and you're like, I don't want to be a part of a yacht society, would you just encourage me by putting your hand in the air? If you're here and you're tempted by Sperry topsiders, would you put your hand in the air? I am too. I'm totally with you, man. We just can't do that. We can't do it. We don't want to stand before him and say, yeah, we settled. We arrived, we had a sweet sanctuary. I've preached over 1,000 sermons now. I can just dig up the old ones. You don't remember what I taught, and neither do I. And I can just re-preach them, and we can just ride this thing out together. It's kind of fat and happy right now. We're going back out. We're going back out together.
Thanks for listening. We want to be a resource for you as you walk with Jesus. So please connect with us at radiantvisalia.com. Until next time.
There is a heavenly city that I'm compelled to find. Though I love the flowers and trees and the smell of the grinding sea and all the beautiful things here in life. And I'm a pilgrim here on the side of the grave.